Hey, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm coming to you from my office with lots of ways of communicating through my computer, my phone, my microphone, podcast, and there's probably some other stuff here I'm not even realizing. I'm sharing that with you because at the tail end of this week's Parsha, after this flood basically ravages humanity, destroys everyone except for Noach and his family, and then life starts anew. And there's this group of people that build a tower, Migdal. They build this huge tower and they try to battle God himself. It's unclear exactly why they were angry with Hashem, why they wanted to rebel against God. Some say it's because they were upset about the flood. Some say they didn't believe the flood came from God. It was just sort of happenstance. Whatever the reason was, they were an incredibly united force against God. Now, they had a very bad cause. You don't fight against God. But there was achdus, there was tremendous unity that they had, so much so that the sages teach that if other movements, good Jewish movements, had the achdus, the unity of the early Babylonians here, if you will, then so many other movements would have been successful because they were besafa achat, they spoke with one language. And therefore, what God did to sort of break it up was to be milbalbel, their safot, to mix up their languages, and it completely destroyed their whole enterprise. They weren't able to complete what they were trying to do, which was to rebel against God, because they could no longer speak the same language. Language communication, the vocabulary that we use, the way we communicate is so important. Even, putting aside whether it's a good cause, it's not a good cause, whatever we want to accomplish in life, we have to be able to communicate. We have to be able to speak the same language. And Hashem was mibalbel. That's where Bavel or Babylonia, someone's babbling, a babbling fool, right? You can't get anything done if you're babbling. People need to understand what you're saying. And I think today it's even more important for us to reflect not only what we're saying, we're speaking the same language technically, but how we're communicating. What's the medium through which we are talking to each other? Is it always on the phone? Is it always through a computer? Is it always like on a podcast? Are we spending enough time in person, one-on-one, looking at each other and being focused, old-fashioned communication? There's no replacement. And please don't get me wrong, that you don't need that for everything, right? Thankfully, we've got the phone. I got 3 out of my 4 kids in Israel this year. I'm WhatsApping them all the time. It's a huge blessing. But it's not the same. I was just in Israel spending time with them. Can't compare the two. And we shouldn't fool ourselves into thinking that we're having the same kind of interaction with our significant others, with our colleagues or other important people in life when we're doing it through other modes of communication. It might sometimes be the best we can do, but let's recognize that it's not the ideal. The ideal is one-on-one. And that is hinted in the letter Aleph, which is the first letter in the word achdus, which is unity. If we want to have true unity, we want to really be connected in an intimate way with the most important people in our lives, then we have to have the Aleph, because if you look at the letter Aleph, it's basically 2 yuds attached with a vav, looking at each other. A yud, a yid, if you will, a Jew looking at another Jew, or just any human being looking at another person in person. So I just wanted to mention that as we, thank God, have this incredible technology, the MGE can now be out there and we can broadcast our programs, our Torah and mitzvot to a much larger audience than ever. Let's remember, though, quality gets compromised through these other devices and these mediums. We need one-on-one, ultimately, for the greatest and most intimate relationships. Shabbat Shalom.